Fantastic. All right. Today we are talking about the power of volume when we speak. And it doesn't matter whether we're speaking in a one-to-one situation or in a one-to-many situation. Volume is a real challenge for a lot of speakers. And the reason that it's a real challenge is that there are people who speak really quietly and they're very hard to hear. And there are others people who speak so loudly that you want to be able to have a mute button. And this means, from an audience's point of view, which is what we're always looking at, that the audience can struggle to hear us, or they can lose interest, or they can assume, and this is the biggie for us, particularly because we're trying to make ourselves, or we're positioning ourselves as experts in our space. The biggie here is that it can actually make us seem like we don't have confidence in what we're saying. Think of it like the dimmer switch on a light. If the dimmer switch is turned down too low, people can't see clearly. But if it's too high, it's like being in an interrogation with a spotlight in your face. It can feel really harsh. But the right level of lighting, it creates focus, warmth, and energy. And that's what we want when we're speaking. We want people to feel warm, connected, and energized by hearing us. Now, here's the real challenge with volume. People do not forgive poor sound or poor audio. When your volume is too low, it's like watching a silent movie with no subtitles. Now, your audience might want to listen, but if they have to work too hard to hear you, they will disconnect. And there are 3 areas that we need to be aware of with volume. Number 1, audibility. If people can't hear you clearly, they can't connect with your message. And even strong, powerful content loses that power when the audience has to really strain to hear you. And by strain, I mean either you're speaking so quietly that they don't understand you, or so loudly that they're put off. And I actually did a conference where I was right in the front row, and the speaker was a man who came out and he basically screamed throughout the entire 90-minute presentation. I'm stuck in the front row feeling like I'm in a war zone. It was so confronting that I can't to this day tell you what he spoke about. All I know is I felt like my eardrums were being assaulted. So content can totally lose power if the volume is not right for the audience. And I like to think of it as being as frustrating for your audience as standing in a dead zone, kind of waving your phone around, desperately trying to find 1 bar of signal. That's how frustrating bad sound is. And if you think about it, if we can't deliver our talk with appropriate volume, we're probably better off just sending the talk by email to people so they can read it. Now, the second problem that we have with volume is authority. Now, when your voice is too quiet, people can mistake that for uncertainty. Even when you're knowledgeable and capable about what you're talking about, they can still assume that you're unsure or you're confused. So appropriate volume also impacts on how people see you as an expert or not. And I think of it like serving a beautiful meal on a plate made from toilet paper. The food may be amazing, but the presentation can absolutely make people question the quality of the food. It's a great visual, that one. Number 3 problem with volume when we're speaking, particularly to establish our authority, is variety. If you speak at the same volume the whole time, your message can feel really predictable, and you start turning into one of those hypnotherapy sleep tracks instead of somebody who's interesting and engaging. And the problem with that is the audience often stops noticing what is important. I like to think of this like it's a bit like wearing the same outfit to the beach, the boardroom, and a black tie event. Now, the outfit itself may be fine, but it doesn't suit every setting, although that guy does pull it off pretty well. So these are the key areas where volume has a lot of impact. You need to be heard so that your message lands. You need to be showing authority with volume so that people know that you feel very confident about what you're saying, and you need to engage through variety of volume in your talk. Now that we know why it's important, let's take a look at some of the ways to use volume effectively when speaking. First thing, your very first thing you do whenever you talk, whether it's online or in person, you must do a sound check. And this should happen before you begin. So if you're doing this online, you want to check that the sound is working before you let people into the event. So whether you're speaking in somebody else's event or you're running the event yourself, always do a sound check. So if you're speaking at somebody else's event, you should turn up 10, 15 minutes before to check the sound, check your slides are going to be able to be seen, check that your camera is in the right position, all of those things. But specifically, sound is the one thing people won't forgive. In person, if you're delivering a talk in person, grab somebody to help you, either a support person or even an audience member, and get them to sit in the back row, the furthest seat away from you, and ask them if they can hear you clearly. Now, if you're at a bigger event, and I speak mostly at bigger events, you're going to have an AV team who will do sound checks and test the microphones for you, but you still have to build that time into your speech preparation. So when I run events, I gather all the speakers and we do an AV check and a walkthrough on where stage positioning is before the event. And then 10 minutes before they talk, they go to the AV tech. I have a staff member who takes them to the AV team and they get mic'd up and ready to go. But whatever format that you're speaking in, make sure you do a sound check first. Second technique is send your voice forward. Do not speak into your chest or down at the floor. And the easiest way to do this is to make sure your eyes are up high and then aim your voice to the back of the room, the furthest part of the room that you can see. Number 3, speak on your out breath. And I know it can be quite common for people, and I certainly used to do this myself, to hold your breath when you speak. So you kind of take a breath in and then you say the words, say the words, say the words, say the words, and then at the end. Think of it more like blowing out a candle on a cake, which we all used to do pre-COVID before we realized that we were spitting germs all over people's food. So you take a breath in and then you let your words ride out on a steady stream of air so your voice sounds supported and clear. So you don't end up with a big at the end. Breathe in, say your words, and as you're saying your words, the air comes out at the same time. Number 4, this might seem really obvious, but open your mouth. Mumbling kills volume. And one of the most powerful ways to mumble, or the easiest ways to mumble, is to keep your lips really close together. Like this, like you've got no teeth. Now, I used to work with someone who put their hand over their mouth and they were incredibly hard to hear every time they spoke. It was a nervous gesture, which I understand, but it made it really hard to hear what he was saying. And on top of that, he didn't open his mouth very far, so he kind of spoke with his lips barely parting. Can't hardly hear a word he was saying. So open your mouth and let your jaw move. And do that with me now. Just move your jaw from side to side and open your mouth up. That's the way. That way, when you open your mouth more when you speak, you can shape your words clearly and it gives your sound room to travel. If your mouth's really tight together and your lips don't open much, there's only this narrow little cave for your voice to get out. And you want a great big open space so that you can project your voice. The last one is finish strong. Don't let your sentences fade out at the end. And I saw a few people then just going, huh? This happens a lot where people feel anxious or awkward. Often happens in the call to action or when we're finishing our talk and we're not sure if it's landed. We let those last few words just fade away and the volume just drops. And I can see a few nods there. I can see people have experienced that themselves. Really focus on finishing strong. So that breath is important here. Carry your energy through the final words so you sound clear, certain, and in control. And pausing really helps to keep that volume at a good level there for you. So these are the 5 techniques that you can use to make sure that your volume when you're speaking supports your talk instead of sabotages it. Do a sound check, send your voice forward, not to the floor. Breathe out all the way through your talk. Don't breathe at the end of your words. Open your mouth and finish nice and strong. And remember, controlled, deliberate speech volume commands audience attention, and that elevates your expertise and positions you as the go-to person in your space. So think about how you're using volume in your speaking right now. Which of those 5 tips are you going to work on first to help you become a more compelling speaker?